all of that was true. I was so busy and things were so crazy and I was so exhausted and I was running pretty low on gas. But what is also true is that we were making memories. We were raising children. We were managing a household. We were doing all the things, the school and the sports and the dinner and the friends and the activities and the church and more together. And I wouldn't have changed any of it. Yet when we speak the way that we do out loud, we are certainly speaking that way in our own head. So I was telling myself, with all these wonderful things that we had going on, out of all of that, I pull out that I'm busy and that it's crazy and that I'm exhausted. I don't think that's the story I needed to be telling myself. Welcome to Becoming Tantalum with me, Megan Bennell. Discover your brightest self in a journey of transformation and resilience. Let's embark on this path together, starting now. Hey there, fabulous moms. Welcome back to another episode of Becoming Tantalum, the podcast where we blend a little bit of humor, a dash of science, and a whole lot of encouragement to help you thrive. I'm Megan, your host, and I'm here to remind you this week that you are doing an amazing job. Today, we're going to lift you up, celebrate your victories, and offer some strategies to keep you motivated and inspired. Because let's be honest, and we've talked about this before, mommyhood is tough. So grab your coffee or your wine, no judgment here, and let's dive in. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what inspired me to do this topic today. So as a mom, and obviously I'm talking to you moms this month, it is so easy to lose sight of the value that we contribute to our families and the value that our families need and have in what we do. So we have all of these seemingly insignificant tasks, and all of those at the moment seem like they're not that important. And yet, as we're going to talk about today, they are incredibly important. On top of that, it's easy to be bogged down because you are doing things incessantly, right? And just constantly. And it's easy to get overwhelmed by that and to not enjoy the little things that we're doing. The other thing is that we are notorious as women, and really just as human beings, but women, I think, are definitely a bit guiltier of this than men are. Our self-talk is terrible. Like, we are never pumping ourselves up or reminding ourselves why it is that we are fabulous. And so we're going to address that because honestly, all day long, your voice is the only voice that you hear constantly. You are talking to yourself, even if it's only subconsciously, 24 hours a day. And that's the only person that does that for you. No matter who you talk to throughout the day, you are the only voice that you hear all the time. And your voice is the strongest. And yet we often give that power away to those voices that we hear out loud coming from outside of our brains. But truly, your voice is the one that's the loudest and that's the most important. But we don't put in the time or the effort to make sure that what it's saying is something that's serving us and that's positive. And then the last reason that I really wanted to cover this is because we rarely get credit for those seemingly insignificant, constant things that we do. So Mother's Day just happened. By the time you're listening to this, Mother's Day is a little bit further away. But for me, it was just a few days ago. And we're reminded once a year how incredibly fabulous we are, but we rarely are reminded outside of that. And so we can change that by doing that for ourselves. So that's what this really is all about, is addressing all of those things. So the first thing that I want to talk about is everyday victories. And that sounds like a really heavy and exciting word, like a victory. You think you're winning a war or you got a job, but I'm talking about the little tiny victories that we have every day that we just gloss over as far as importance and giving ourselves credit and celebrating. So being a mom is a 24/7 job. Like, if it was possible to have 28 hours in a day, we do it, right? So 24/7. There's no breaks, there's no holidays, and there are definitely no sick days. Do you hear me here? Like, dad sick versus mom sick is a very different thing. One of my favorite questions as a mom is I'll get back from vacation and somebody will ask me the question, "Did you have a chance to relax and reset?" No. As a mom of littles, are you with me? Do you know what I'm talking about? Like, vacations are harder than staying home. The prepping, the new locations, the change in routines, the new expectations of wherever it is that you are with your littles, it's a lot worth it. I'm not complaining here. We have a blast. We make memories, totally worth it. Don't get me wrong. But relaxing and, resetting, no, absolutely not. That does not happen. And that's the same with holidays, right? I love the holidays. I love hanging out with my family and seeing friends for things like Friendsgiving. I mean, it's amazing. But now we have fancier clothes. You're expecting different behavior expectations from your children. Routines are disrupted. You're moving and packing from place to place to place to place, right? To go here and there to see everybody, which is awesome. And I feel so blessed that we have the opportunity to have all of those circles and to be a part of all of those things. But it's more work than just the typical day to day. So, where most people think I'm so excited about vacations, I'm so excited about the holidays because it gives me a chance to rest and reset. Moms, you know that that is not the case. There are truly no breaks when you're a mom, and I'm not complaining. But there is this story that we often tell ourselves in our minds like, man, I don't ever get a break. It's so hard. I'm so tired. And I'm not saying that that story isn't true, but maybe there's a story we can tell ourselves that will allow us to be proud of what it is that we do and to celebrate our victories and make us feel better in those day to day constant moments. Because regardless of the fact that we don't have breaks, we still do it. We manage to keep going. And that in itself is incredible. Take a moment to think about that. Think about any other job where you don't have breaks, where you don't have holidays, where you don't have vacation, and you do it anyway. That's what you do. That's incredible. So let's celebrate these little things that we do, like getting the kids to school on time, managing meltdowns without losing your control, or even just finding and dedicating 5 minutes to yourself. All of those are little victories. I'm going to pause real quick because I totally forgot to tell you that I'm on vacation. So if you're watching this on a video, we go to Lake Havasu. That's in Arizona a lot. And so you can't really see the lake behind me. It probably just looks pretty bright to you, but that's why there's a change in venue. So talk about being on vacation. Here I am on vacation, but I wanted to spend some of it with you. So one of my favorite quotes, Oprah Winfrey, I think, is such an amazing woman just in general. And she once said, the more you praise and celebrate your life, the more there is in life to celebrate. And that's what we're going to focus on here for just a little bit is how we can celebrate those little things. And then you're going to recognize that there are so many little things to celebrate, and that will allow you to celebrate more. So I'm going to give you an example of someone that I know, a very dear friend of mine. Her name's Sarah, and she allows me to tell this story and use her real name. So she is a mom of two wickedly energetic boys. They're adorable, but energy to the max. I'm pretty sure that she just has a drip line of Red Bull into their arm at all time, but that's the only chance that any human would be able to have this much energy. So she constantly was telling me about how overwhelmed and unappreciated she felt managing these two boys and their life and the husband and all the things. And so when I started on my life coaching journey, I really wanted to make sure that I wasn't coaching people that I knew without obviously their permission. However, with Sarah, I just kept hearing this story that she was telling herself about how overwhelmed she was and how underappreciated. And so I started just asking her if it makes her feel good when she describes how life is going that way. And of course, her answer was no, none of us feel good about describing it that way, right? One of the first things that I had suggested to her is maybe at the end of the day, you could remind yourself why what you're doing is so awesome. So she actually coined this term. I mean, maybe somebody else did and she just started using it, but she started keeping a victory journal. And that's where I came up with this term of using victory for today. And I love that. So every night she started writing down 3 things in her journal that went well that day. And sometimes, admittedly, she said they were just super, super tiny things, but in that day, they were a really big win. So it could have been anything. She told me from cooking a meal to so everybody ate, or just surviving a super hectic day. I mean, really simple, what we consider insignificant things. But over time, you would be amazed at how she changed not just her posture, but how she responded to that question, like, how are things going? I very rarely heard overwhelmed or hectic or unappreciated. And I loved seeing that change in her. And that made me think, this is just something that I think we all moms, that we all can do in a different way. Doesn't have to be a victory journal. So she started seeing herself not as a struggling mom, but truly as this like superhero who is conquering all of these things on a daily basis. Do you want to see yourself that way? I do. Right? I want to look back on my day and recognize all these little victories that I had and just feel empowered by that and recognize how fabulous of a job I'm doing, right? And that's what I want for you. So, that idea, that victory journal idea, can be done in a ton of different ways. Giving yourselves little high fives throughout the day, reminding yourself of little wins that you have throughout the day. You could even do it in the morning. So maybe it's not wrapping up the day with this, but instead, maybe it's starting the day with reminding yourself how you rocked yesterday, maybe 3 or 5 ways that you did it, so that you're geared up to rock today as well. Really, it doesn't matter how you're doing it. It's just important that you're giving yourself those positive affirmations. We have to give them to ourselves as moms, right? Because we don't hear them enough to count on them coming from others. So if you're in that place, if you are counting on other people appreciating what it is that you do and saying that to you, I promise you they appreciate it. Or maybe they haven't even thought about it because it just happens so seamlessly. But we can't count on other people to do that. We have to do that for ourselves. I actually, though, and I wanted to mention this because I thought it was funny, my response to it. So I got one of those little out loud appreciations out of the blue the other day from my husband. So I wasn't going to be around in the morning. I'm the person that wrangles the kids and gets them fed and gets them ready. And then he takes them off to their various locations. So on this particular day, I wasn't going to be around to do that. So I woke up earlier than I needed to, got everything as prepped as possible. And that then later that day, so he didn't have to do any of that, right? So he just had to get himself ready and then get them off. So later that day, I got a text from him that read, and I want to get this right. Thanks for getting the kids' stuff all together this morning. I love you. Okay. Now, I want you to be careful on how you take this next part because you need to know that I appreciated that text. It made me smile and it warmed my heart and I really loved it. So please don't think that I didn't appreciate what he sent. I 100% did. And also, this is the first time in, I don't know, 5 or 6 years, I think, that this has been our routine, that he has ever thanked me for all of those things that I do in the morning. And I do it every single day. Now, I don't expect him to thank me. And the reason is it's kind of just the expectation that we have. Like he's going to get them to the various locations and I'm going to do all of the things to get them ready to go to the various locations, right? It's just a part of our established routine. And we've been doing it for years, like I said. But never once, not a single time has he said thank you until the other day. And I'm saying this not because I think he should be thanking me. I'm saying this because I hustle my little bum every day to get everybody put together, to get everybody packed and fed and out the door and showered, like all the things on time. And that, ladies, is an accomplishment, right? So I have 4 kids and they're all little and they have all the excuses to not do all the things. If I was waiting for someone else to give me credit where credit is due, if I was waiting for him to thank me to feel good about what I did every morning, I would have been waiting until just a couple weeks ago. I would have been waiting for years. But that doesn't take away what it is that I'm doing. It doesn't take away the value. And so I don't wait for that. I recognize that I do that our house would run very differently if I didn't do that. And then a ton of other small things too, right? And that is worth noting. Every morning runs as smooth as possible because I put in those efforts, because of those little tasks that I do. So what I do, even the simplest everyday things, is important to our family. It's valued by our family. And you aren't going to be recognized by others for doing these little things that you do every day. And you absolutely can recognize yourself for it. So give yourself a high five. Put that in your victory journal. Remind yourself of that the next morning. Whatever it is that allows you to see the value that you put in those little tiny, what seems like insignificant things. You did it and it was valuable and your family is better off for it. So good on you, mama. Like recognize those things. So this goes for a lot of other things, obviously, not just the morning routine. So think of what you do on a daily basis, because maybe you don't have little kids that you need to wrangle in the morning and get fed and get ready. But is it cooking? Is it cleaning? Is it laundry? Is it reading books with kids? Is it doing homework? Is it just giving hugs and loves? Is it attending all of their various sports or activities or gymnastics or music or, whatever they do? Is it play dates? Is it diapers? Are you still in that stage? Is it grocery shopping? All of those things that you just consider to be a task that's routine and constant, you do them. Give yourself credit for that. You do them, and your family is better off for it because you get it done. So remember the value that you're providing to your family and be proud of that. If you listened to my podcast a couple weeks ago, you're a marvel. Remember? You are a marvel. Give yourself credit for that. So, you know that I'm a science nerd. I say it every week. There is some research behind giving yourself these positive affirmations. And keep in mind, this is different than positive self talk. Okay. So, but forcefully and in a confident way, allowing yourself to affirm what it is that you're doing. So, in the psychological science, it's a journal, it suggests that self affirmations, so you giving yourself credit, saying positive things about yourself, can improve problem solving under stress. Tell me if that sounds familiar to you, moms. Do you have to problem solve under stress while you're doing 1.5 million things? 100% you do. So, giving yourself those self affirmations can improve your ability to do that. When you remind yourself of your strengths and your achievements, even those little tiny victories, you boost your confidence and your resilience. And all of that increases your ability to problem solve and to handle things under stress. It's like giving your brain a little pep talk, right? Reminding it that it can and that it is and that it's amazing. This past week, I had the pleasure of speaking with Dr. Emily Thompson. She's a psychologist and she specializes in maternal mental health, which I could not think of a more important niche to have in the psychological world. So here's what she had to say about the importance of self compassion for moms. So this goes along with the idea of self affirmation and positive self talk, right? Self compassion. She said, moms often hold themselves to incredibly high standards, right? Are you with me? Self compassion is about treating yourself with the same kindness and understanding as you would a friend. Research shows that self compassion can lead to greater emotional resilience and well being. And what I want to pull out of that for you is treating yourself with the same kindness and understanding as you would a friend. Do you do that, moms? Do you treat yourself the same way? Do you talk to yourself in the same way? Do you congratulate yourself and recognize yourself in the same way that you would a friend? If you don't, I'd like you to think about that because really you should be your own best friend first. And I shouldn't say should, you could be your best friend first, treating yourself as you would treat a best friend. And imagine how you would feel if somebody all day, every day treated you that way. They can't. That can be you, right? I read a quote today as I was preparing for this that I love and dislike kind of all at the same time. So we're going to break that down. And it says, Mama, the glue that holds everything together, even when she feels like she may fall apart. So it's like the definition of mama, the glue that holds everything together, even when she feels like she may fall apart. And I love that because it recognizes if you are in that role as a mom, you are incredibly important. You literally are what makes it all run, what holds it all together. What I don't like about that quote is that you might feel like you're falling apart, and that breaks my heart for you. But I think that it's so common and it's so true. And the biggest reason that we feel like we are just 5 seconds from losing our shit, are you with me? Is that we don't prep ourselves, take care of ourselves before we get to that point. Give ourselves those positive affirmations, right? So we are constantly running on all but empty, if not empty. And that doesn't put us at our best to help or support our family, of course. And so I don't like that part of it. I do want you to hold it all together. And I want you to hold it all together, feeling amazing about that. Think of how good that would feel. The reality of all of this is that you have the choice and the chance to change all of that. because that's where the positive self-talk, that's where the affirmation, that's where the realistic view of what's going on comes into play. And why do I say realistic? We are so good about telling ourselves stories in our head that color the world that we're living in. Okay. So what you're saying might be true, but it's not serving you. So I remember I used to be notorious for saying, I'm so busy. It's so crazy. I'm so exhausted, right? We talked about this kind of at the beginning. And when people asked how I was doing, that was always my response. And all of that was true. I was so busy and things were so crazy and I was so exhausted and I was running pretty low on gas. But what is also true is that we were making memories. We were raising children. We were managing a household. We were doing all the things, the school and the sports and the dinner and the friends and the activities and the church and more together. And I wouldn't have changed any of it. Yet when we speak the way that we do out loud, we are certainly speaking that way in our own head. So I was telling myself, with all these wonderful things that we had going on, out of all of that, I pull out that I'm busy and that it's crazy and that I'm exhausted. I don't think that's the story I needed to be telling myself, right? Even just adding a descriptor to some of that story feels different. And it changes the focus and the story that we're telling. So, for example, if instead somebody said, how's it going? And I said, it's amazingly busy. Feel how that's different than just saying, like, it's so busy, right? It's amazingly busy. We are so blessed with all of these things that we're involved in and all these opportunities we have. And it's so fun. We're having a blast. It's amazing, right? So, sure, you're busy. Sure, I'm busy. But you're loving all of those experiences and moments. And if you're not, girl, reach out to me. Like, let's talk about this because that's what I want you to do is to love all those moments that you're having. But so maybe you just qualify those stories that you're telling out loud because that's going to qualify them in your head, qualify them in a positive way. Let me remind you. So, all of that to say, just watch the stories that you're telling yourself and others. Another question that I hear, especially in regards to stay at home moms, is what did you do all day? And do you know what I hear most often when somebody asks that question? Nothing. Bullshit. Sorry, mom, but that is absolutely not true. I don't believe that for a second. You had that opportunity to give yourself credit for being that glue, for making it all happen. And instead, you said nothing. No, you take that opportunity, girl. Take it. You did a lot. Give yourself credit. You could say things like, we did a ton of learning. We kept our house in order. We played. We had some yummy snacks. We laughed. We learned some lessons. I mean, there was a ton of stuff that you probably did. And all of that matters. You could just give them 2 or 3 things and say it was a good day, right? Or 2 or 3 things and it was an amazingly busy day, right? Take that opportunity. You didn't do nothing. Your life is not amounting to nothing. Those stories that we say out loud, we're telling ourselves in our head too. So we need to make sure that your mind is 100% on board with what you want to pull out of the life that you're living, period. So, to your moms out there, I would love for you to practice giving yourself credit, okay? Remembering the value that you offer every day. And that can be, we've talked about 2 kind of main ways here, but one could be something like a victory journal where you list 3 things at the end of each day. Start off each day, maybe instead remembering how, 3 things that you did yesterday. Maybe it's just giving yourself high fives in the moment, but just recognizing those little seemingly insignificant tasks that add incredible value to your family. Maybe instead it's really reframing the story that you have in your head. So when someone says, how's it going? Like, oh my gosh, I'm so tired. No, pull something else out that's also true, right? So reframing what it is that we're amounting our lives to because it matters. We're hearing it in our own head. Practice that. So practice reframing that story or practice something like a victory journal. It takes like 5 minutes a day. That's it. But I promise you, if you do that consistently, you're going to feel a shift. This freedom of, of not feeling bogged down, right? A new focus on the little things that matter and a confidence in what you do on the day to day, the little things and why it matters. So pick one of those things, just one of those things, something like a victory journal or focusing on changing the stories in your head. Pick one of those things because it matters. It matters. 5 minutes a day. That's all it takes. The truth is that your family needs you. I want to remind you of that. And it needs you at your best each day, which admittedly that can vary day to day, obviously, but I want you to give yourself credit for that. Could your family do it without you? Not the way they do it with you, right? You are fabulous. You are necessary. You are valuable. And you are an entity that is just irreplaceable in your family's life and so incredibly appreciated, even if they don't say it, but you can say it. You're allowed to recognize that and feel proud of all the things that you do. And dads, I'm talking to you for a second. Dads, focus up. Please say thank you to your kiddo's mom for packing their lunch, getting them ready, cooking the dinners, doing the laundry. Not all the time. You don't have to do it, every day, but every once in a while, because that adds evidence to her for the work that she's doing for herself. So if she's doing this, if she's doing some sort of victory journal type recognition activity, or if she's waking up and saying, I rock the day, or if she is giving her credit throughout the day, or if she's changing her stories, you reminding her of that, it just adds evidence that the work she's doing is going towards the right place. And it feels good to hear it. So maybe it isn't about packing a lunch. Maybe it's something like getting the kids to where they need to go, or maybe it's the positive affirmations she gives to kids. Just think about that. What are the little things that she does on a daily basis to keep your family machine well-oiled and running smoothly? Reminder of that from time to time. Okay, moms, back to you. My expectations for you are quite a bit higher than my expectations for dad. I want you to do this for yourself daily, every day. You deserve it. It takes 5 minutes, maybe less. You can even connect with other moms and make it a habit of boosting each other up and recognizing in a positive way all that you do so that you can provide evidence for each other. But I want you to do this every day for yourself, because you are fabulous and your little tiny things matter and they are valuable and they are little victories. And it is something to recognize and celebrate. So, you're doing an extraordinary job. I'm here to tell you that today. And it's time to recognize that for yourself as well. Embrace your victories, practice self-compassion, and connect with other people who are going to lift you up when you need it. You've got this. Moms, we're all in this together, this mom squad that we got going on. So thanks for tuning in to Becoming Tantalum. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it to a fellow mom who maybe needs a boost. I would love for her to be boosted up by this as well. And don't forget to subscribe so that you never miss an episode. Until next time, keep being the fabulous Marvel moms that you are. Goodbye for now. I'll see you next week. Thank you for joining me today. If you want to take all of these concepts and tools to a deeper level, apply them to your life, and watch the transformation happen, I would love for you to join the Tantalum Tribe. That's a monthly membership where all of our community has access to live coaching, self-paced courses, guest coaches, podcast study guides, anonymous question boards, and more. You too can transform your life using the tools and strategies that we have with accountability built in from our community. I really hope that you join us at tantalumcoaching.com. That's TANTALUM coaching.com. Just click join the tribe. I can't wait to see you in there.
An ironic media production. Visit us at ironickmedia.com.